You guys have been waiting for this your whole entire life. Not really your whole entire life, but you get the idea. And judging by the title, you guys know that today I'm releasing a new Photoshop tutorial, a basic Photoshop tutorial for beginners like you and me, which will help us going deep into the world of editing videos and many things. As you all know, Photoshop is a huge software that professional designers and almost artists, transportation designers, anything that has to do with design, Photoshop is the best, and I recommend you guys to use Photoshop. And if you are interested in watching this video, then let's hop right into the computer.
So jumping right to the computer, this is the first interface that you are going to see, but you're not going to see all these photos because you're not able to. So before I get right into the showing you the basics of everything, I'm going to give you a little bit of heads up. Back in the days when I started my own, YouTube, Photoshop tutorial, learning Photoshop tutorial, there's a bunch of videos on YouTube. If not a million, there are thousands of videos on YouTube, and it was very hard for you to understand what every single YouTuber is saying because there's a bunch of videos by different types of YouTubers with different types of teaching methods. So as for you guys are lucky because you have me and I got you guys. I'm going to show you all the steps in a self-explanatory way that you guys can master Photoshop in a little bit of time. So if you're into editing photos, the basic step that you need is for you to open camera roll filter. And for you to open camera roll filter, you go to this icon here, filter, then head to camera raw filter is shift control A. So as you all see, this is the camera raw tool or for the editing whatever. So there are, as you can see, there are a bunch of tools that you will need to edit a photo. So for the first tool icons you see here on top, this one is the basic sliders that you will use for editing the lights and almost those kind of temperature, vibration, contrast, clarity, vibrance, blacks, white, shadows, highlights, contrast, exposure, and the tint. And for the second toggle, this one is a more advanced one that you will use to, manually or quickly edit or, change the balance of the photo. And heading to the third one is the detailing. The detailing is more of noise reduction, sharpening of a photo, noise reduction, and that's basically it. And more popping out more of the color details. And heading to the fourth one is the hue, saturation, luminance, which we call the HSL or grayscale. What these button little tools do is that they change the look of colors. You have a bunch of sliders to change the colors of the image. Let's say desaturating the greens only, or you want to desaturate the blues only. Like it works or only a certain color that you want your edit to affect on. So if I want my reds to become more orange, I can easily do that. If I want my blues to become more of this aquas or greens, I can easily do that. If I want to saturate a certain color with this saturation, I can saturate any color I want. And with luminance, it darkens or lightens a particular color that you want. So we are coming back for that. I'm just giving you a quick little pick of the top buttons that will help you. And this one is the split toning. So it only works on highlights and if you want your highlight to have the tone of a certain color, let's say for instance I want my highlight to have a tone of red, maybe I'll just increase the saturation and my highlight will be more of the reds, only affects highlights. And if I want my shadows to have a tone of any color, let's say for instance greens, I can just slide the saturation more, and as you can see, it only affects the shadows. Moving forward, This one is lens correction. This one, it doesn't, if you take the picture right, you don't really need this one is just distort the, what do I call it, the perspective of an image, and which, if your perspective is okay, you don't need it. Let's head back to zero, and that's okay. And this one are the little effects such as grain, dehaze, or vignetting. So this basically is like a final touch photo after editing it, and it's not, it sometimes it makes friends, but you get the idea. So as I was saying, this is the preset where I save most of my presets when I, you know, work on a photo and bring up an awesome idea. So let's head back to the first basic icon where you do almost most of the editing. So for the first slider here is the temperature, and you all know what a temperature is: cool, warm. If you want your photo to be more on the warm side, you can just slide it. A heads up or a quick little trick is that when you're working with temperature and tint, you are not advised to like move the slider all the way to the end, because when you're editing the rest, your photo will look a little bit, unprofessional, and it will be looking just stupid, and it won't do good. So you just adjust the slider a little bit, and it makes a major effect that wouldn't affect some of your edits later on. So let's say I want this image to be somehow cool. So minus a negative 10 is okay for that. And for the tint, whenever your temperature is at the cool side, then your tint is supposed to be at the purple side. It's like they are much more awesome when they're opposite to each other. Let's say for instance, my photo is on the warm side, then I will move the tint to the green side so that they just match each other. And if my photo is on the cool side, then I will just adjust my tint to the purple side. Makes a huge difference if you consider that and take note of that. So after that, you just head to the more controls, which is the exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, blacks, clarity, vibrance, saturation, or whatever. So for the exposure, you guys all know what an exposure is. It exposes the photo into light, giving it more light, and the photo is exposed. And if you want to release the slider, then you know it will darken the photo, the whole of the photo. It doesn't really, use a particular field or particular part in the photo. It just darken the whole of the photo, the highlight, the shadows, the whites, the blacks, everything is darkened. And heading, let's say for instance, let me just de-expose the photo a little bit. Heading to the contrast. The contrast is more of, darkening the shadows. Mostly it darkens or sharpens an image. Yeah, it just sharpens the highlights and the shadows only. When you decrease the contrast, then it softens the highlights and the shadows, partially making it to become like more of the same, but not almost. And if you slide it all the way to the end, you can see it sharpens the image and darkens everything. So let's just leave the contrast at negative 16. No, 16. Yeah, to be okay, I guess. Just but for now. And a tip is that you can always come back and readjust some of the sliders to your liking. So I can come back if I want the contrast to be more negative or more positive. So for the highlights, in case of this photo, the highlight is a little bit high. So you all know the highlight is the brightest part in the photo. So the highlight is a little bit high in this photo, so I decided to decrease the highlight down all the way to minus negative 100. Sorry. And for the shadows, because this photo was taken around noon, so as you can see, it has a lot of shadows in the subject's face. So I'm going to dehaze, sorry, the shadow, reduce some of the shadow. As you can see, if I remove all the shadow, it takes a huge part of the shadows. And if I bring the shadows down, as you can see, the shadows are darkened. It only works on the shadows only, sorry. So the shadows will be all the way to the positive 100. And because I slided the shadows to all the way to the 100, I need to slide down the white so that the photo won't be overexposed or blown away, or it will not be very bright. Yeah, so I will use the white all the way down. It depends. If your whites are very dim in the photo you shoot, then just, you know, slide it all the way to the positive side. If the white is more popped out, then you just shift it to the negative side. I'll just leave it at negative 83. And for the blacks, in this case, I won't do anything, but just for you to know, the blacks is the opposite to the whites. So if you need more blacks, slide it to the negative side. If you need less black, slide it to the positive side. In case if your photo is the black is a little bit black or dark, then you will slide it to the positive side, and if it is less black, then you slide it to the negative side. And if there is no need, then there's no need for you to touch it, because it's not by force you must touch every single slider here. So in terms of clarity, is popping out, is just like giving the photo more details. As you can see, it gave it more details and it pre-sharpened it, giving out more of details. But when the clarity is over clarified, or lack of a good word, the clarity slider is very high. Depending on how soft your photo is, it tends to, destroy the image and make it look more, more distorted and over detailed. So if your photo is kind of soft, depending on how soft your photo is, then that's how you're going to increase. And if my photo is super detailed, if I like it, I will just decrease it and it will really soft. But no one would like to see image like this, so to mostly not use, advisedly don't use it up to the end. So I'm going to leave it at positive 19 for the clarity. And vibrance pops out the color in a warm way, while saturation brings out more of the color or less of the color. As you can see here, it turns, because there's less saturation now, it's black and white. And the more you pull the slider for the saturation up, the more the photo is saturated. Yeah, sorry for the mistake. Saturation deals with the popping out the color of the photo, while vibrance, it warms the color, it pops out the color in a warm way. So in this time, you guys need to, pull out the vibrance and desaturate it a little bit. Let's say -7 is okay, and add a little bit of vibrance. So we all know the idea how vibrance is. Let me see if I can get the before and after. As you can see, this is the before and after, with just a little bit of slides and touches, without even heading into this huge, the tone curve. So the tone curve, as you all know, it basically deals with the tone. As you can see here, adds contrast here, decreases the contrast up to a way a huge level that even the sliders can't do. So for this one, it needs a little bit of tutorial, so I'm gonna drop a video on this particular curve, talking about the curve, because when you master it, it's really helpful. But for now, you are going to mess the photo if you don't really know anything about it. Head into the detail. It all deals with sharpening. I guess you guys all know what sharpening is. Noise reduction. Sharpening is when it sharpens the photo depending on the amount you want. As you all can realize how sharpened the photo is and less sharpened it is now. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of sharpen, maybe 5. Yeah, that's okay. And I don't really play with these buttons because it's perfect the way it is. And in terms of the noise reduction, it reduces the noise in a photo. So just slide a little bit of the luminance all the way up. It doesn't really make a huge difference, but it's really worth it in terms when you, more especially when you transfer the photo into a phone or something like that, because you're not going to see the photo the way it is now. It really pops up when you send it into your phone, something like that. So for the color smoothness and detail, I'll just add the slider a little bit just to give the color a nice touch. Heading to the fun part is dealing with the colors. So for the first slider, as you can see, the reds, orange, yellows, greens, aquas, blues, purples, and magentas. So here, if you are just doing a basic editing, you don't really need to touch these ones. But if you are a kind of person who does Photoshop manipulation or effects that you really need the colors, then you're going to use them. So this first tab is the hue. It's basically converting a certain color to another color. So as you can see, the red. The red slider is in the middle, which is in its main color, red. If I slide it to the left side, it become magenta. It slowly or partially convert it to magenta. And if I move it all the way to the right, it converts to orange. So that's what it basically does. And for the orange one, if I move it to the left side, it turns to red. And if I move it to the center, it go back to orange. And if I move it to the right side, right side, and it turns to yellow. And that's the case for the yellows. It turns to orange and it goes to green. And for the greens, from yellow to aquas. And for the aqua, from green aqua to blue. For the blues, it turns from the aqua blue to the purples. And in case of the purples, it's from blue, purple, and moving to the magentas. From the magentas, and in case of the magenta, is from the purples, magenta, and then red. So I guess then the saturation here: red, orange, yellow, green, aquas, blue, purple, and magenta. This is how you saturate and desaturate them. And in terms of luminance, this is where you brighten or darken this a certain color, as you all can see. So I won't do it in this case, but I'll only do it for the greens. As you can see, the greens are a little bit darkened, and here they are a little bit white. That's how it is. And for this photo, that's the end of the editing. I won't touch anything after that. And I've already explained the highlights and the shadows for this split toning, and that's all what you need here in terms of photo editing. So if you're done and you're satisfied with that, then press OK. After that, Photoshop will apply the edit to your photo, and you just need to wait for a little seconds and it's going to be applied. And when the photo is done, and that's basically it, then you just save it by clicking save as, and after that a little window will pop in a few seconds. So here you will choose the type of image, then head down to the PNG. Here, this section here, PNG, because all images are supposed to be in PNG format. So then you will just select your location that you need to save the photo, then you hit save, and that's all. Sorry, that's not all, but almost all. So it will an option will appear here and you just press OK. That's just it. Make sure but this button should be in the large file size, then hit OK, and that's all. Your photo is saving, and that's it for this tutorial. If it's helpful, please subscribe to this channel, and if you like the video, please hit the like button so that it will help me in terms of the YouTube algorithm to push out my video to other people. And if you have a friend that needs to be educated by this video, just share this video and I'll be happy to see you guys next time in the next tutorial. Peace out.